Weapon rarity in Arc Raiders has been throwing me off for the longest time now. So I've been doing a lot of research and I've got an answer. After testing every single weapon in the game at level 4 with max attachments, comparing and contrasting what works, what situations the guns are good at, and just stockpiling some general information and comments about how weapons have been performing in the game, I've come to the conclusion that in the name of balancing, weapon rarity is completely fake in this game. So I'm going to show you guys my weapon tier list after over 300 hours of playing the game. And I'm going to let you in on a little bit of a secret as to how weapon rarity actually works. But before we get started, make sure to subscribe for more goated content. All right, first, let me explain exactly what I mean by weapon rarity being fake in Arc Raiders. So there are 5 tiers to weapon rarity in Arc Raiders, and these weapons follow a trend, as you know, as many other games do. That being, the gray tier items are weapons of lesser value, they're easier to obtain, cheaper to craft, and supposedly they are worse than the gold tier weapons, which are extremely hard to obtain, very, very expensive, and you would think this would make them the best weapons in the entire game. But that's where the complexities of weapon rarity comes into play with this game. First, my main idea that I want to get out to you guys is that Arc Raiders has intentionally made a point to make a completely broken weapon in every single weapon rarity. That means there's a completely broken gray weapon, there's a completely broken green weapon, there's a completely broken blue weapon, and a completely broken purple weapon. This kind of leads me to believe that there's a sort of intentionality when it comes to the game developers trying their best to make the weapons as balanced as possible. I mean, for example, in this game, one of the gray tier weapons, the Stitcher, when maxed out with level 4 attachments, essentially is better than the purple weapon, the Bobcat, even when maxed out in level 4 attachments. These guns can compete without any issues neck to neck, even though one is so much harder to obtain and so much more expensive to craft and upgrade. This obviously lowers the barrier of entry for newer players who can simply just immediately craft the Stitcher and upgrade it, versus players who have been playing the game for a long time and they want to bring one of their rarer items out, like the Bobcat SMG. So in essence, every single weapon rarity in the game just has their own broken gun. That absolutely can compete at the top level with PvP, no matter what you're going up against. Obviously, this is going to be situational, but it's going to be really clutch even up against top weapons at close range. So this is essentially how I've come to the conclusion that weapon rarity is completely fake in this game. Now let's talk a little bit about my weapon tier list, which is honestly the main point of this video. All right, if you look at my tier list, it goes from PVE to F tier, CBA to S tier. Now, one thing I really want to talk about really quickly is my PVE tier. Unfortunately, a lot of the gold weapons in this game are actually not really great when it comes to PvP. In my tier list, I weigh value of items pretty heavily. Obviously, I don't really weigh value as the #1 placement as to how well a gun is going to do, but it is rated pretty highly on my tier list. So if you look at my tier list, I've categorized the gold weapons into PvE specifically, just because you're going to get more value from PvEing than you will taking these out to fight other enemy players. Now, in the PvE tier list, the Equalizer and the Jupiter are relatively good for PvPing if that's something that you think you want to do with those weapons. Now, obviously, these guns are insanely hard to craft. You're very rarely going to come across them, very rarely going to get your hands on them, but I do recommend trying it once for anyone that hasn't, just to see what they're like PvPing. Both of them are kind of like mid-range or long-range weapons, the Jupiter being a sniper and the Equalizer being, you know, relatively mid to long-range burst weapon. And then the Equalizer and the Hole Cracker, honestly, are just going to be best against Arc. Now, F tier, the Rattler and the Hairpin. Obviously, for obvious reasons, these two are F tier. The Hairpin is just the worst gun in the game, hands down. The fire rate is terrible. It kind of just griefs you picking it up more than the value you will ever get out of it, even though it's one of the cheapest weapons in the game to craft. And the Rattler, even after max level upgrading the Rattler to level 4 and putting incredible attachments on it, the mid-range spray on this gun is still garbage. It kind of saddens me that this is one of the only 2 genuine assault rifles in the game, but it's called a Rattler for a reason. That's because when you shoot the gun, your bullets are going to rattle in every single direction but the target that you're shooting at. Really not a fan of this gun at all. Now for C tier, the Arpeggio. Upgrading this weapon to level 4 max attachments was actually pretty decent, but it just misses out on a lot of value being a burst weapon. Other than that, it's pretty cheap to craft. You can definitely get some value out of it, but it's definitely just not going in at my top of the list for weapons, and it doesn't really compete with any of the weapons above it, essentially. Then we have the Pharaoh. I had a lot of comments in my, in my short form content saying that the Pharaoh shouldn't be rated C tier. But my issue with the Pharaoh is, even if you upgrade it to level 4 and you put max attachments on it, shooting 1 bullet from the Pharaoh, essentially anything A tier and above, is absolutely gonna kill you even before you can reload a second bullet into the Pharaoh. And you better pray you don't miss that second shot, even if you get the chance to do it. The Pharaoh simply just has the highest reload time in the entire game. It can't possibly be see anything better than C tier, even at max level 4. Granted, the gun does do a lot of damage. I will give it that. Absolutely. It's a great budget weapon, 100%. But when it comes to PvP, it's not really going to get the job done the way you want it to. Now, another gun that really disappoints me is the Batina. This gun is obviously just 100% should not be rated pink or purple item. This is kind of why I allude to weapon rarity being fake in this game as well, because the Batina is just garbage. Max level attachments, max level upgrades. The gun can kill people in about 5 or 6 well-placed bullets, maybe even 7, but it just shoots so slowly. It's a very sluggish weapon, and it has incredibly high recoil. It's not fun to use at all. I would rate this gun higher, even if it were better against arc, but it's for a heavy ammo weapon. It's not as hard hitting as something like the Pharaoh or the Anvil, for example, which is really surprising to me. So I really don't see people getting a lot of value out of this gun, pretty much ever. Now for B tier, disappointed in the Bobcat, man. This one really saddens. I wanted to put the Bobcat up there at S tier with the Stitcher and the Venator, but honestly, the value that you get from this gun just tanks it to the absolute ground. The Bobcat has less damage per bullet than the Stitcher. Now, obviously, the Bobcat has a slightly faster fire rate, compensate for that, but the Stitcher is a gray weapon and the Bobcat is a pink-purple tier weapon. It's one of the hardest weapons in the game to craft. It literally currently has the lowest drop rate for blueprints in the entire game, making it the rarest gun in the entire game. Even more rare than the Aphelion, Equalizer, and Jupiter. And it's just relatively mid. You have to hit almost a full clip spray down extended mag on the Bobcat to even secure a kill. It's honestly ridiculous. The value being a purple pink tier tanks it enormously. Now, something that is honestly a decent weapon for its rarity and value is the Osprey. It's the only scoped weapon in the entire game, so you get a crazy amount of value, and it does relatively decent damage. It's a very solid B tier gun. Then next we have the Beretta, which is honestly very underrated. You can get so much utility out of the Beretta. It absolutely puts people down close range. Great weapon to take off your hip. Solid B tier gun. Then we have the Torrente, which is incredible. Probably one of the best close range guns in the game. I would put it up there with being able to compete against shotguns for sure. But the accuracy on the weapon is just absolutely horrible. You're going to miss about 70% of the shots that you shoot. Even if you're crouched, standing still, ADS, the gun's accuracy is just awful. If it were slightly more accurate, it could really be an S tier menace. Then finally for B tier, we have the Kettle. This is an incredible gun. Silenced, upgraded. It's going to do decent damage, but the mid-range damage fall off or accuracy fall off is relatively high. So you're only really going to get value at this close range. You can't really spray this gun mid-range, but you know, it's relatively quiet and it's great value for being a gray tier weapon. Then next we have the A tier list, the Volcano. Honestly, I really wanted to put this at S tier on it, and I would say that in most aspects it is S tier, except for the S tier guns just have so much value over this gun. One thing that throws me off about the Volcano is essentially no matter how many attachments you put on the gun, the weapon's kickback is going to blow your crosshair towards the sky every single time you shoot it. So crosshair resetting is something that you really have to do with this gun, but other than that, it's a great weapon, easily one of the best weapons in the game as well. Then we have the Tempest. Now the Tempest is a really balanced assault rifle. It's pretty much what every game needs. I think the recoil is relatively high on this gun, but that can be stabilized with attachments and upgrades. Unfortunately, it definitely falls short when it comes to PvPing against the S tier weapons in the game. Any gun that's above this Tempest in the tier list is pretty much gonna kill you before the Tempest can actually kill you. That's the only trade-off. The Tempest doesn't actually put out any more damage than any of the S tier weapons here. So that's pretty much the only thing you have to look out for. Now in my S tier, I have Stitcher in the #1 spot. Absolute most valuable gun in the entire game. The fact that you can one clip somebody with this gun when it's only made of a few rubber parts is absolutely nuts. Nothing comes close to the value that you get from the Stitcher in this game. Then we have the Venator, which is the most broken gun in the game. This gun has had to have been nerfed 3 or 4 times now because it's so strong. It shoots 2 bullets at once. It's a blue tier rarity weapon, which means it's honestly very common, not hard to obtain. It's not hard to obtain the blueprints. It's not expensive to upgrade. This gun, just easily the best PvP gun in the entire game. Still the best even after 3 nerfs. Now the Renegade is going to be the best ranged gun in the entire game. It does so much damage mid to far range. It's unreal. It's the most oppressive gun in the entire game. You can't cross an open field with a team of Renegades shooting at you. You absolutely will die. And the Anvil, this gun is capable of 2-tapping anyone to the head. It's insane. It's an incredible gun. This gun has so much high value being a green tier weapon. It does great damage to arcs, which is not really important for this list, but it's a nice touch. And the amount of damage it does to players is absolutely nuts. Almost unparalleled in the game next to the Pharaoh. And then finally we have the Il Toro, which is the best value shotgun you'll find in the game. Honestly, the Il Toro is nuts close range. It's gonna give you so much bang for its buck being a green tier weapon, and it can hold its own zone easily against any S tier weapon or A tier weapon, effortlessly against B tier and below weapons, especially when you're in your element close range. Now that's pretty much all I have for this video. If you guys have any questions about my tier list or any questions about weapon rarity or anything in general, just make sure to leave a comment below.